I find this absolutely fascinating. I don't know how many people are aware of it, and I don't know if it can integrate into the platform, but if it can, I think it solves an insane amount of problems that we're having with our English language learners. In my district, where we have many of them, it's kind of a joke when their regions packets come by that we say, oh, some people will say, here's the failure packet. We just haven't had the resources to help them learn. And I came across this particular opportunity through the Delta Facebook platform, speaking to one of the teachers in the city, a really nice kid who went to St. Anthony's, so we had a little bit of a connection there. Apparently, what you can do if your video is linked through YouTube, you can use their settings, and in their settings you can select to have your information translated in subtitles. You can select the language that you're speaking in and what you want to translate it to, which is absolutely unbelievable. So I have it set for English to Spanish subtitles. I also had messed with the speed reel a little bit because I was trying out a new mic with this particular video, and it had somewhere in the settings I had recorded it super fast. So you'll hear that it's going rather quickly, but there is some interesting opportunities with the YouTube speed factors that are worth investigating in just a second. So here are your subtitles.
As variables involved, we usually want to pull the equation apart and we go backwards, so we undo the addition and subtraction first using the additive property of equality. Once we've undone.
So obviously that's rather quick. Again, that has to do with the speed content when I was editing it, and I wasn't exactly sure what settings I had messed around with and how to get them back to normal, and didn't have a chance to readjust it, so I had to get the video in. But what is cool about that is I tend to give a lot of description to everything I teach. I'm a little wordy, if you haven't noticed, but I think it's important in algebra in particular because the more depth of knowledge and understanding I give them, the greater chance they have to apply it. So if a student finds that Tucci's talking forever and they want to listen, but they're being held accountable for watching the video, and then they might want to slow it down when they get to the actual manipulations, they can adjust the speed for themselves. So they may be like, all right, this is the introduction. I want to play it back at 1.5 just so I hear everything, but I'm not being forced to waste my time because I can absorb it quicker.
In the addition and subtraction, the next step is typically to undo the multiplication or division. And we usually use the multiplicative property of equality. If we have to undo...
So clearly that's a little bit crazy because that's a reel that's been sped up already by 25%, and it's being sped up by another 25%. So that is way off the charts. But you could imagine that a normal speaking presentation for a stronger learner, they might want to absorb that quicker because they know most of what's in there and they just want to rehearse it, or the teachers assigned it and they're required to rehearse it. So that might be to their benefit. Without having to hit fast forward and skip any of the details in between. Now similarly, if you are, for whatever reason, struggling with the pace, you can slow it down. It seems to do a pretty good job of keeping the voice. It's not like if you're old enough to know when we used to slow the records down back in the 80s, you used to have speeds on it, and it would really distort the voice quite some. But I think this is kind of reasonable.
Multiplication, we choose to multiply by the reciprocal. That's the same thing as dividing, or we just divide. And that undoes the coefficient, the amount being multiplied by the variable. So that's really what a two-step consists of. But what I want to introduce you to is something that very few classes talk about, and that to me is...
So that's really kind of neat, and you can imagine how that would be super helpful for an English language learner to slow down what we're talking in our native language. It appears to be as though we're talking slow, but it happens all the time. When I hear people talk in other languages, it seems like they're racing through it, and a lot of it is just the unfamiliarity with what they're saying. So I hope that's super helpful. I think it's a game changer, quite honestly.